If you woke up today and felt something inside you refuse to move, listen carefully. Because what you're calling laziness might be the single most important message your soul has ever tried to send. That heaviness in your body, that blank stare at the screen, that quiet, I can't do this. It's not a character defect. Jung had another name for this state, one most people have never heard. He called it psychic incubation. The moment the psyche pulls its energy back from a life that no longer fits. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you something that may hit uncomfortably close to home. There are 5 distinct forms this stillness can take. 5 hidden signals that explain why you can't push, can't start, can't make yourself care, no matter how hard you try. If you've ever felt the terrifying weight of not being able to get it together, you're about to learn why that feeling is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of a transformation. So before you judge yourself, before you call yourself lazy or broken, let me show you what your stillness is actually trying to tell you. Every hero has a moment when they can't move. Moses in the desert, Buddha under the tree, Persephone in the dark. If you can't make yourself function right now, you might be standing in that same ancient threshold. This video will explain. Let's begin. We live in a culture that worships motion, productivity, speed, output. Every day, you're measured by how much you accomplish, how quickly you respond, how efficiently you turn your life into results. Your worth becomes a performance metric. Deliverables, milestones, proof you're not falling behind. So when your energy collapses, when you stare at a wall for an hour, when you feel the terrifying absence of motivation, you reach for the labels your culture has given you: lazy, unmotivated, procrastinating, broken. But Jung saw something completely different. He understood that the psyche doesn't respond to deadlines or calendars. It doesn't care about your 5-year plan or your to-do list. It cares about truth, alignment, integrity, the rightness of your inner trajectory. And when that trajectory goes off course, when the life you're living drifts away from the life you're meant to live, the psyche performs a radical act. It withdraws its cooperation. This is what Jung called the wisdom of symptoms. Your inability to function in a life that is wrong for you is not malfunction. It's precision. Your psyche refuses to power the machinery of your suffering. Think of a forest in winter. To the untrained eye, the trees look dead, still, bare, unproductive. But underground, an invisible intelligence is at work, pulling energy inward, consolidating strength, preparing for a spring it cannot yet see, but knows is coming. This is psychic incubation. You are not stuck. You are composting. You are not failing to grow. You are growing in the dark, where the most essential transformations always begin. Your stillness is not the absence of life. It is life reorganizing itself in ways the conscious mind cannot yet perceive. If you feel stuck, there's a reason. And once you know which one is yours, the stillness suddenly makes sense. Here's the part almost no one understands. Not all stillness is the same. What looks like laziness from the outside can actually be one of 5 distinct psychological states, each with its own meaning, its own message. They're patterns Jung observed again and again in people whose lives were quietly trying to transform. So let's name them, because the moment you recognize which one you're experiencing, everything starts to make sense. First, the stillness of misalignment. This is the exhaustion that appears when you are living a life that isn't yours. You wake up and go through the motions, the job chosen to please your parents, the relationship held together by habit, the city you never meant to stay in. And underneath it all, a steady leak of life force. No amount of sleep touches this fatigue. Jung called it neurotic suffering, the slow death of the soul when it abandons its own nature. You're not tired because you've worked too hard. You're tired because you've worked on the wrong things. Your psyche will not fund a false life, so it makes you too heavy to continue until you ask the question you've been avoiding. Whose life am I actually living? This is not laziness. It's your psyche staging an intervention. Second, the stillness of grief. Sometimes you cannot move because something inside you has died, and you haven't admitted it yet. It might be a dream that slipped away quietly, a version of yourself you no longer are, a future you thought you'd have. Your mind might not name the loss, but your psyche feels it like a weight. This stillness isn't avoidance, it's a vigil. Your unconscious is refusing to move forward until the grief has been honored. The right question here is, what have I not allowed myself to mourn? Third, the stillness of overload. Sometimes your system is simply full. Too much information, too much pressure, too much chaos in the world, too much tragedy scrolling past your eyes. The psyche, overwhelmed, hits the circuit breaker. It shuts the gates. It goes offline. A protective shutdown that says we cannot take in one more thing until we metabolize what we already carry. This is the stillness of integration, where meaning settles into the bones. Fourth, the stillness of transition. There are moments in life when you are no longer who you were, but not yet who you're becoming. Jung called these liminal states, and they are sacred. The caterpillar does not become a butterfly through effort. It dissolves. It becomes liquid. It lets the old identity die, so the new one can be born. If you feel frozen between worlds, this stillness is not resistance. It's metamorphosis. It whispers, you are not lost. You are becoming. Fifth, the stillness of stifled creativity. This is the paralysis that appears when your soul has something to express, and you keep refusing it. Jung believed each person carries a diamond, a creative spirit that insists on expression. When you deny it, when you say, not now, when you choose a practicality over creation, the diamond withdraws its energy from your entire life. What starts as, I can't write, or I can't paint, becomes, I can't do anything. And its message is simple. If you will not make what you came here to make, I will not animate the life you're trying to live instead. The way through isn't discipline. It's surrender to the work that is yours alone. Now let's go deeper, because everything we've talked about, the withdrawal of energy, the collapse of momentum, the quiet refusal of the psyche, none of this is new. It's ancient. It shows up in every myth, every initiation story, every spiritual tradition that survived long enough to understand the human soul. There is always a descent. Christ in the desert for 40 days. Buddha under the Bodhi tree, refusing to rise until truth revealed itself. These weren't detours in the journey. They were the journey. Jung called this the night sea journey, the necessary passage through darkness that precedes any real transformation. And here's what almost no one tells you. If you feel heavy, still, unmotivated, Unable to rise, you are standing in the same lineage as every mystic, hero, and artist who's ever transformed. You are participating in the oldest pattern the psyche knows. The alchemists had a name for this stage: nigredo, the blackening, the phase where the substance is heated until it breaks down, loses its form, and becomes unrecognizable. Not because it failed, but because that's what it takes for gold to emerge. You cannot transform what you refuse to let die, and that's why you can't force yourself into motion right now. Your psyche isn't operating on your schedule. It follows an older intelligence, a biological, spiritual, psychological rhythm that determines when the breakdown is complete and when the new form is ready to rise. This is why effort isn't working, why pushing through it feels impossible, why every attempt to return to your old productivity only drains you further. You are in the crucible, and crucibles are not comfortable. They are not peaceful. They are not productive in the way culture recognizes productivity. They are transformative, but here's the promise Jung made. If you can bear the darkness without running, if you can resist medicating yourself back into false motion, if you can sit in the stillness long enough for the psyche to finish its work, you will rise with new eyes. The person who couldn't get out of bed will be gone, and in their place will be someone who sees clearly, knows what is theirs to do, and carries medicine the world genuinely needs. Transformation doesn't arrive with fanfare. It arrives quietly, like dawn. One morning, you'll simply notice the energy has returned, but it flows in a different direction now, toward truth, toward alignment, toward the life that was always waiting underneath the one you were trying to force. So what do you do with all of this? How do you move through the stillness without panicking, without making it mean you're failing, without trying to force yourself back into a life you've already outgrown? Jung offered a practice for moments exactly like this. He called it active imagination, a way of treating your psyche as something intelligent, purposeful, and worth listening to. It's not meditation, not visualization, not positive thinking. It's a conversation. Here's how you begin. Sit with the stillness. Don't try to escape it. Place your hand on your chest and ask gently, "What are you trying to tell me?" Then wait. Not for words. The psyche rarely speaks in words, but for images, sensations, memories, flashes of understanding. You might feel a tightness in your throat. See a door. Remember a dream from months ago. Notice an image that rises again and again. Write down what comes, not to analyze it, but to acknowledge it, to show your psyche you're listening. Then ask the second question. What in my life is no longer true? Let the answer come without censoring it. It might be your job, a relationship, a belief about who you're supposed to be, a story you've outgrown but never questioned. The psyche will show you what wants to be released, and what you've been holding on to out of fear, loyalty, or habit. Now ask the final question. What wants to be born through me? This is the hardest one. The answer might be inconvenient. It might require courage. It might force you to dismantle the life you've been living. But Jung insisted, the deepest part of you already knows why you're here. Your stillness is clearing space for that knowing to surface, and modern neuroscience mirrors this truth. When you're doing nothing, your brain's default mode network activates. The system responsible for integration, meaning-making, and insight. The mind at rest is not idle. It's assembling your life into coherence. Your stillness is not shutting down your brain. It's activating the part that makes sense of your entire existence. So the work is simple, though far from easy. Stop treating your stillness like a problem. Start treating it like information. Let me leave you with this. You are not broken. You are not falling behind. You are not wasting your potential or failing some mythical test of discipline. You are in the chrysalis. And if you could see inside a chrysalis, you would not find peace. You would find a creature dissolving, cells breaking apart, identity dissolving, everything familiar turning to fluid. If you opened it early to check on the progress, you wouldn't find a butterfly. You'd kill the transformation. Your psyche knows this, so it has sealed you inside the necessary dark, not as punishment, but as protection, as initiation. It has taken away your ability to continue as you were, because who you were cannot take you where you're going. Jung understood this better than anyone. He spent years in what he called his confrontation with the unconscious, a period so disorienting he could barely function. To the outside world, he looked lost, but he wasn't lost. He was being remade. What looked like collapse was the beginning of the work that would guide millions of people through their own darkness. Your stillness may be preparing you for something you cannot yet imagine, a version of yourself you haven't met, a contribution only you can make, a life that requires the death of the one you're living now. So I will not tell you to get up. I will not tell you to push harder, grind more, motivate yourself back into motion. I will tell you this: your desire to lie down is not the problem. It is the solution. It is your soul saying, stop, listen, let the old life fall away. Trust the dark, trust the pause. I am bringing you somewhere effort alone could never take you. And when the time is right, not when you force it, not when you guilt yourself into it, but when the transformation is complete, you will rise, not out of discipline, not out of fear, not out of obligation, but because the new life, the true life, is finally ready to be lived. And when that morning comes, you will understand the stillness was never time lost. It was time found. The time your soul needed to remember what it came here to do.